Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online news video with me, Sherman. Today we're taking a look at the 5.2.3 patch notes, and I'll be honest with you guys, I'm going to skip a lot of this stuff. We're just going to look at the combat changes, because most of this other stuff is like Mid-Year Mayhem, the Murkmire Celebration, the template changes, and then the combat changes with Dragonhold, a lot of fixes for the quests, which needed it. Elsewhere changes was just the Necromancer class, and it got some adjustments to its damage over time. So Boneyard's damage over time got adjusted by 20%. The Frozen Colossus now lasts for 8 seconds after dealing any damage, rather than 3 seconds with its major vulnerability, and enemies hit by major vulnerability cannot be affected by it again for 20 seconds. This is to prevent situations where this debuff could be kept up indefinitely by rotating army of necromancers, and this is a good change. Regardless of what many think, that's a really good change. I'm glad they did that, because it was annoying to hear people say, oh, well, we need major vulnerability, you're not playing it, you're not joining us. It was stupid. Rapid Rot, they increased the duration of 15% up from 10. Reusable parts got a major update, 25 to 50% uptime versus 12 to 25%. That's, or reduction thing, that's really big. And then Shocking Siphon got a 20% increase. A Skeletal Mage got a 20% increase in its damage over time. Disdain Harm got some updates to its damage, or its damage mitigation, 15% from 10%. And then they updated the passive to work more against damage over time than anything else. Combat ability stuff, they talk about this damage over time abilities by 20%. Like, they listened to the feedback, they heard a lot of people saying that there was a lot of dead zones in damage and stuff like that. They did a massive change to damage over time. Not something I expected this big of, but people got what they wanted. So Fiery Breath got increased to 50% for its morphs, or abilities and morphs. Increased by 50%. That's just ridiculous, but it does put the DK back to where it belongs, where it is more of a dot damage player, so that's kind of nice. Searing Heat, they fixed an issue where this passive was not applying to the Dragon Knight standard or its morphs, and updated the tooltip to indicate it only increases the damage over time of the abilities listed rather than all of their damage. So Searing Strength, they increased the damage per tick of their damage over time to 33%, repeating of course. And then Molten Weapons, Molten Armaments, they fixed an issue where the heavy attack damage bonus, which was 40% I think, from this morph was not applying to attacks it previously had, such as Restoration Staffs and offhand dual-wield attacks. So it was only applying to staves and two-handed weapons, and now it applies to both. Or to all of them. Lotus Strike, the Lotus Fan, got a 20% increase in its damage over time. Path of Darkness, Twisting Path got a 20% increase in its damage over time. Summoned Shade got a 20% increase in its damage over time. Shadow Image, the ability's teleport range is now again 28 meters and is always reflected on the tooltip and ability bar, and will not be affected by range enhancement tools such as Battle Spirit, Reach, or Propelling Shield. Veiled Strikes, they reduced the cost to $22.95, down from $2,700, to make it more like other melee spammables such as Lava Whip and its Morph Surprise Attack. And then Siphoning Cripple got an increase of 20% in its damage over time. Sorcerers, Lightning, Ball of Lightning, this morph no longer stuns. It does retain the new addition of gaining Snare and Immobilize immunity when casting to help this morph out as a defensive escape tool. And then they fixed an issue where this morph was only absorbing spell-based damage and not all projectile damage. Or all damage. Straight, this morph now continues to stun enemies. Yeah. Lightning Splash got a 20% increase in its damage. Bound Armaments got a 21% increase in each of its daggers damage that it summons and throws out. That's actually a really good increase and a good change. Unstable Familiar got a 20% increase in its damage, and also Volatile Familiar got another 20% increase. Summoned Winged Twilight got a 20% increase in its damage over time. Aedric Spear ability, Luminous Shards, had it adjusted. They decreased the cost of its morphs to 43.20, and the lowest it can go is 40.50. And then Blazing Spear got a 20% increase compared to a 10% increase in its damage over time. And then Spear Shards altogether got a 50% increase in its damage over time. Dawn's Wraith Sunfire increased the damage of the damaged over time from this ability and force by 33%. Solar Barrage got a 22% increase in its damage over time. Restoring Light Cleansing Ritual, the Ritual Retribution. This morph's damage now once again deals damage equal to the healing coefficient. Warden's Animal Companions Dive. This ability and its morphs now set the targets off balance if you are 7 meters, not 12 meters. So now you have to be within 7 meters. So it makes it both a ranged and a kind of up close, like to start, when you go in to start doing DPS, drop this like the cutting dive on them, and you can set them off balance along with bleed them, and that bleed damage is now up by 43% approximately. Swarm damage over time was increased by 20%. Winter's Embrace, Impelling Charge, they reduce the cost of this ability and its morphs to 32.40 down from 5.36, since the primary function of this ability is utility rather than damage. Winter's Revenge increased the damage of this morph by approximately 80%. This will allow it to stand out from other damage over time abilities that the Warden has for magic damage. So this is really going to be different, and it's going to be a really powerful skill for Ice Wardens. And not just Ice Wardens, guys, anyone playing a Magicka DPS Warden, this is going to be a really good ability to use. Two-Handed Cleave got a 50% increase in its damage over time. Critical Charge got a Stampede got a 38% increase in its damage over time. Blade Cloak got a 20% increase. Twin Slashes got a 33% increase, and Blood Craze has a 33% increase in its heal over time to match that of its damage over time. Poison Arrow increased its damage and its morphs by 33%. Poison Injection, this morph now applies its execute bonus to the entire ability rather than just the damage over time. Whew, that's a crazy one. Volley got a 20% increase. Destruction Staff got a 33% increase in Destructive Touch, and Wall of Elements got a 20% increase in its damage over time. So damage over time got a big increase, but a lot of this has to be tested still. Soul Magic got a 20% increase. Infectious Claw got a 50% increase. And then Werewolf's Berserk form got a 24% increase in its Bleed morph. So the Werewolf is now really going to be good for damage over time. Fighters Guild Trap Beast got a 33% increase in its damage over time. Mages Guild Entropy got a 20%. And Scolding Ruin got a 60% increase of damage over time. They did do some fixes to the Ravage Health Creeping, Ravage Health Poisons, that they would perform completely different than crafted ones. Yeah. Crown Lethal Poisons and similar crafted potions to defer slightly in effect. That's good. And then Blood Drinker got an increase in its damage to 33%, up from 20%. And then Daring Corsair, this set no longer scales on cost reduction with the item level, similar to other sets such as Seducer or Alteration Mastery. And then Deadly Strikes, they increased the damage bonus to 20% from 14%. And then Ravager, they fixed an issue with the Destruction Staffs drop from this set. We're coming in at the improper level. Base game changes, not a whole lot here, guys. And that's pretty much it for the majority of the PTS patch notes. Mostly a lot of dot changes to bring dots back to a respected level to where they're going to fit more accurately into the game and how they should work. And then, of course, like I said, a lot of stuff with the quest for the Dragonhold stuff and the world bosses in Dragonhold. This one definitely needed a major fix. The whatever Tashirashi's training ground definitely needed some fixes, and so did the Shrine of the Reforged. This was really annoying when you were fighting this boss, and you would head out a little bit too far, and he would respawn. This was just an annoying fight, and it looks like they got some of it fixed. So. And then other than that, not a whole lot of other things, really. I mean, the Mid-Year Mayhem stuff sounds cool. So does the Murkmire celebration, but it's just to get tickets. Like, honestly, it's like ticket farming for holidays. But other than that, I mean, a lot of these changes I like. I'm happy that they reverted a lot of this stuff because, like I said, I saw 5k DPS difference in my loss compared to like the in-game crowd, which was like more like a 20 to 30k. There should be about a 5k to 10k loss now at the end game, and roughly about a 2k loss for the average casual player. So not as big of a hit on the average casual versus the end game. So, but that's pretty much it for the PTS patch notes, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and hit a like. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can subscribe. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. Bye.